keep their smart meter, because I understand a lot of the technology that they're going to, the products are going to be chipped with smart meters. A lot of the products won't work if you don't have a smart meter. Can you comment on that?
What products?
Well, I think it goes back to Buckminster Fuller, correct me if I'm wrong, and he had the grand notion of chipping stuff back then, and this technology being smart in the fact that as far as like electrical grid, you would be able to power down the grid or use the energy more efficiently, I guess. In other words,
no, what you're talking about is the power company being able to push a button and shut off your air conditioner if the loads get too high. That's the kind of control we'll have.
well, they do have that control right now, right?
Well, they don't. I mean, if you got an analog meter, they can't come out and they have to disconnect your house to shut off your air conditioner. The smart meter gives them the ability to shut you off, instantly, and I mean, and I think it's a terrible invasion of privacy. I don't want anybody shutting off my power to anything without my knowledge, and I don't want them to be able to record what I'm using and when I'm using it, and if I'm home and if I'm not home.
So let's go through the top 10, and you tell me, Doctor, if it's true or false, and then just please comment for a minute or two, because it is a list of 10 items, and they're one of the biggest ones out there on the internet. Let's start with number 1, and again, you tell me if it's true or false, and then comment. Okay, number 1. They individually identify electrical devices inside the home and record when they are operated, causing invasion of privacy. Is that true or false?
True.
Can you please comment on that, please?
They can. I don't know that they do. What's really sinister is they can take this information and sell it. I don't think that the public, private utilities almost certainly will do it. But they can do it. Yeah, I mean, the waveforms are different if your stove is on or if your fridge is on. They can, and especially when they got these transmitting appliances, they're going to know which ones are transmitting when. I mean, like I identified that they're on the market already. I found a house that had 3 of them in the kitchen.
Okay, let's go with number 2. They monitor household activity and occupancy in violation of rights and domestic security. True or false?
Well, I mean, it's semi-true in that if you're not home, you can't be using your stuff. If you have a device to turn it on automatically when you're out of there, like you have a timer to put your slow cooker on. I mean, they can tell your slow cooker's on, but they don't know that you're not there. So it doesn't really measure occupancy, but most of the time it does. Let's face it, if the electric meter isn't sending anything out that shows you're not using any appliances, chances are you're all asleep or you're not home.
Okay, let's go with number 3. They transmit wireless signals which may be intercepted by unauthorized and unknown parties. Those signals can be used to monitor behavior and occupancy, and they can be used by criminals to aid criminal activity against the occupants. True or false?
That's true, but there's 2 edges to this too. I understand a couple states that have smart meters. The cops are busting marijuana growers because they can tell from the electric bills that they're using lots of grow lights.
Okay, number 4. Data about occupants' daily habits and activities are collected, recorded, and stored in permanent databases, which are assessed by parties not authorized or invited to know and share that private data by those whose activities were recorded. True or false?
I mean, I don't know. I know that ultimately the data is going to be collected. Almost certainly, it's going to be recorded and stored. I understand that a lot of companies would love to, know your electric use utilization habits so they can market, sell you stuff that they think you need. But that's partly true. I just can't. I don't know about unauthorized. I suppose any hacker could get into the stuff if he wanted to.
Okay, number 5. Those with access to the smart meter databases can review a permanent history of household activities, complete with calendar and time of day matrix to gain a high invasive and detailed view of the lives of the occupants. True or false?
I think it's true. I don't know how invasive it is, but yeah, it's true. I mean, if they're recording what you use when you use it, it basically says something about your life, you know?
Okay, number 6. Those databases may be shared with or fall into the hands of criminals, blackmailers, corrupt law enforcement, private hackers or of wireless transmissions, power company employees, and other identified parties who may act against the interests of the occupants under metered surveillance. True or false?
I mean, I don't know, but I think all of it could be true. I mean, I just don't know. That's kind of a very bleak scenario, but you know, it could happen. If it's there, people want to get into it, they'll get into it.
Number
I don't
7.
like the idea that it could be sold, you know, and that data could be sold.
Number 7. Smart meters are, by definition, surveillance devices which violate federal and state wiretapping laws by recording and storing databases of private and personal activities and behaviors without the consent or knowledge of those people who are monitored. True or false?
I don't know. You have to get an attorney to answer that one. They do all of the above. I don't know about the legality. I don't know about the law. But they certainly can do all that monitoring.
Okay, number 8. It is possible, for example, with analysis of certain smart meter data for unauthorized and distant parties to determine medical conditions, sexual activities, physical locations of persons within the home, vacancy patterns, and personal information and habits of the occupants.
Some of that's certainly true. I don't know about the sexual activities unless they can pick up your vibrator use. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that's kind of a dim world view of things, but technically it's true.
Okay, number 9. Your company has not adequately disclosed the particular recording and transmissions capabilities of the smart meter or the extent of the data that will be recorded, stored, and shared, or the purpose of which the data will and will not be put. Is that true or false?
I mean, I don't know what the various power companies do. I've received nothing from my local power company about what they're going to do, but I noticed that the meters are popping up in the neighborhoods. Many places they don't even tell you when they're going to do it; they just do it.
How is that possible?
They do it. I mean, they just go up to the house and they plop a new one on. I talked to one of my friends the other day. I noticed he had a smart meter. I said, "Did anybody tell you they were coming and do it?" No, they just came and did it.
Well, I know that I received a letter, and so, you know, I didn't know that they could just. I mean, that's property. I did not know that they could do that without even letting you know.
You know, they've got an easement to come and read your meter. That's all they have. I mean, they don't get your permission to come and look at how much you use with your analog meter. But no, I think it's a terrible invasion of privacy and your property, and that's why I'm going to build a cage on mine. I don't want them taking the old one off for lots of reasons. But I think if you send a certified letter to them, to the utility saying you don't want it, and you put a sign on it, and then they do it, I think you can sue them. But then, well, what a pain. I mean, I think the things are dumb. You know, there's no advantage to the consumer whatsoever. It's not going to save you anything. It helps them a lot. They can fire their meter readers, and they gain access to your data. One thing that bothers me nobody talks about is if you had terrorist hackers, they could knock the grid down real quick if it's all smart meters, because they wouldn't have to bomb anything. They could just push some keys on a laptop someplace and do it if they're smart enough.
Number 10, electromagnetic and radio frequency energy contamination from smart meters exceeds allowable safe and healthful limits for domestic environments as determined by the EPA and other scientific programs. True or false?
It's not true, because everybody falls back on the FCC limits, and like I say, they're thermal limits. you can't cook anything with your smart meter, and it won't heat your body up, but it can sure make you sick.
Okay, that was the EPA though, not the FCC he mentioned.
EPA doesn't have any regs. They don't have any standards.
Okay, let me.
Now the World Health Organization just came out and said that the kind of radiation.
Let me forgive me. Let me read it one more time, Doctor.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the last question out of the 10 that, I mean, these were some of the biggest issues that people had that I found. Okay, here's number 10 again. Electromagnetic and radio frequency energy contamination from smart meters exceeds allowable safe and healthful limits for domestic environments as determined by the EPA and other scientific programs. True or false?
Look, I don't know that the EPA's ever. Look, I've been following this for 50 years. EPA's never come up with any limits that I know about or any standards. Now, other European countries have. They set limits for RF and environments from the cell towers, and the Europeans and the Russians especially have set very stringent limits. We don't have those over here that I'm aware of, unless they're brand new.
Are you familiar with a man named Rob States?
Yeah, I talked. He was on he was on a call with me about a couple weeks ago. Bill Deagle had him on. I've seen a video that he made about smart meters. I thought it was fairly good.
Okay, because he has a video up called "The Dark Side of Smart Meters."
I looked at it a couple days ago.
And what are your thoughts on it?
I thought it was fairly truthful and straightforward, easy to understand.
I see. Is there any issues in that presentation that you thought, well, he could have done a better job of clarifying, or maybe it was a little bit misleading?
No, I wasn't really looking at it critically. I just wanted to see what he was doing. I thought it was overall a very positive contribution. If anybody, came from space and didn't know what a smart meter was, it really helped them, to understand what was happening.
Off the record, do you think that these smart meters really are sinister? I mean, is there something more sinister at play here than just having these? In other words, the cover story is that isn't this great that the meter readers don't have to come here, and that saves a lot of gas and time of those folks driving and walking everybody's once a month for the figures. But clearly there's something more to these smart meters, and there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, there's a lot of conspiratorial stuff on the internet. I guess what I'm asking is that on the record, instead of off the record, obviously, on the record, what are your thoughts as far as addressing the disinformation, the misinformation, the conspiracy end of it? What are your thoughts? Because you've been at this for quite some time, and you understand a lot of the science and so forth. So can you please comment?
I can't comment on conspiracy theory, but I can tell you from the electromagnetic point of view, it makes me very nervous that we're dumping a new technology that is going to radiate people. It doesn't have to be this way. They can get rid of the meter reader by having a very smart meter and hook it to the substations with fiber optic or existing phone lines. They don't have to use RF and to transmit and to spray the neighborhood with microwaves or your house or whatever. So there's better ways of doing it. I mean, we can put men on the moon. We can figure out smart, safe ways to communicate electric use back to the utility. I don't know that they need the detailed stuff that they can get, but I'm not into conspiracy theory vis-a-vis smart meters yet, unless somebody proves it to me.
Well, if that is the case, if they can do it easily, pennies on the dollar, and even possibly retrofit just the old kind of meters, then it begs the question, if they're all about the money and corporations saving money, why didn't they do that?
I think it's all about corporations making big money. there's this federal money that's been made available with the quote smart grid, and so the appliance makers are going to embed transmitters in their. I'd be very careful when to buy a new appliance to make sure it didn't have one of those transmitters in it, because you can't shut it off. You can't turn it off. It's going to be on from the day you plug it in, and I can understand at one level, what they're trying to achieve, but it's not going to save the consumer any money. In fact, some places they make you pay more for the damn smart meters, and I understand in some places there's terrible billing problems that the old analog meters did a fair job, and all of a sudden the power bill goes up, and I just don't like the idea of this stuff getting shoved down our throat by state governments and public utility without a fair hearing of what's happening. And I think they're getting a terrible backlash in certain parts of the country now, and maybe they'll wise up, and I hope the states that don't have it will think twice about doing it. I think 2 or 3 states now have said no smart meters, which I think is a great thing.
Well, perhaps those ones that are backlashing are the ones that they do not fluoridate the water, perhaps?
Look, I just don't know. I don't know. Fluoridation is pretty uniform.
So, to sum it up and tie your book into this, if for those listeners, and again, I want to make it clear to the listeners, it doesn't look like the smart meters are going away. So, in a very direct way, Doctor, can you empower our listeners instead of living in fear? Can you empower them through summarizing some of the solutions in regard to the cell phones or the smart meters?
Well, you just kind of slipped into the cell phones. Well, I think the way we behave and treat these devices is important. Like, I've got a cell phone. It's never, ever on when it's on my body, okay? I never use it except on speakerphone modes. It's never against my head. That's smart, because if your kids use cell phones, make sure that they're not on when they're carrying them around, and because they've shown all sorts of nasty things like sperm counts going down and other kinds of problems. The other thing is, like DECT phones, I'm much more worried about a DECT phone in the kitchen blasting 24/7 at close range to whoever's in the kitchen than I am about a smart meter out in an outside wall. But it's got to put things in perspective. Don't use compact fluorescent lights. They're an anathema. They're bad. And and check out the cars you buy to make sure that a lot of these electric cars and hybrids have really high fields in them. You just want to try to avoid exogenous electromagnetic fields getting into your body, and there's things you can do in terms of how you behave and the devices you use and the appliances you use. And you can clean up where you work and your home with these Stetzer filters, and it'll take care of a lot of the dirty electricity. It won't get rid of the Wi-Fi or RF. So I kind of avoid places like the Wi-Fi cafes and stuff. I don't go to them. But anyway, there are a few things we can do. I outline a lot of them in my book, and there are some sources of books you can look at to have good, sensible solutions to some of this. But the smart meter stuff happened after I wrote the book, basically. I think I mentioned it in one sentence. And another year or two, I'll write an update to the book, and I'll hopefully have a lot more about the smart meters, because I'm still learning.
Well, it is a toxic soup, because on the one hand, you have places like where I live where they Wi-Fi'd the whole county, and then you have the smart meter, which I'm dealing with, and then you have power lines in the backyard. It's almost too much to take.
I know how you feel. I filtered my house, about 8 years ago, and I just coincidentally measured the outlets the other day, and my God, they were high again, in spite of the filters being in. So I know they've got what's happened is a bunch of new houses went in across the road, and I think that I'm getting some of their dirty electricity. So I bought some more filters, and I may have to install more. So I haven't figured out my own house, so I know what you're saying. And I'm really disturbed about the fact that the ground currents are getting higher and higher, and there's no place to hide, no way to hide from those. They come in your house through the pipes, through the ground wires. When you walk on them, you're getting it too, and it's making cows and farm animals sick too. So we're going to have to do something about the way we transmit and generate electricity and to make it safer. In Europe, they're smart. Many places don't have the WYE system. They don't. Their systems are built so that all the neutral returns are on wires, so they have a leg up on us right away. But I don't know. There's lots of electrosensitives. I've visited the colony in Snowflake, and they're thinking about putting smart meters on their houses down there too. I'll tell you, that'll kill those people because they're very, very sensitive to electricity. So I don't know. It's a belief. That's why I wrote the book. I'm hoping that we can get Congress and our people make decisions allegedly on our behalf to do something about it. But unfortunately, I find corruption and in the EMF community and the professors and EPA and government and no place to hide. Especially the public utility commissions. They're basically staffed by people who work for the utilities, and they have that bias.
Well, I know that on a side note, there are certain herbs that you can take that help with the effects of the radiation, like ginkgo and...
I just don't know about any of that supplements.
No, they're not supplements. They're just herbs. You can put them in a smoothie, or you can just drop them on your salad, like ginkgo and and then there's other stuff that like natural herbs, and they, like for instance, cell phones and the radiation, it messes with your blood-brain barrier. So if you take these certain herbs, it helps. But
I'd have to see a controlled study before I believe it. That's my nature, and I don't know if you're taking it doesn't hurt you. That's fine. I wouldn't say that it's going to protect you from anything until somebody's done a test to show it, and that's because I'm a scientist. And until a couple of years ago, I never took a vitamin, but now I've got a disease that requires me to take vitamins so my bones don't break. So I take them for the first time in my life. But I eat well and exercise a lot. That's good advice. And
we have about another minute or two left. Can you comment on the microwave aspect, though, because we handled the radio frequency aspect of smart meters, but we never really addressed the microwave aspect of it. And for the record, is there any solution to short of being in a Faraday cage for the homeowner to protect themselves with the microwave energy off that smart meter?
Oh, well, distance is the major protection. If you get as far away from it as possible, that's the only solution I know about. We could joke about wearing tinfoil hats and wearing fabrics. I know some people who wear these fabrics that allegedly, make the Faraday cage around their body, but I don't know. That just doesn't seem practical to me. No, there's not a hell of a lot you can do. If you get rid of the source, that's great. That's about it.
Do you feel you have a pretty good pulse on things? Do you feel that there will be a backlash and that these smart meters will go away?
Well, I know there's a hell of a backlash in Southern California. I don't know how many of them are going to go away because I don't know. But what's going to take is some really big lawsuits. The only thing they understand is money, and if they get nailed with some expensive lawsuits, they'll think twice not only about installing them, but then they'll get into opt-out and replacing for. Some people are going to keep them, I'm sure, but because they don't feel anything, they don't know anything. But I'm just hoping that common sense will prevail. I just don't know I don't know what the future is going to be. I can't read the crystal ball.
So what you're saying is go either way. It's kind of crapshoot. We don't know yet. It's too early to tell, right?
Some states have already gotten smart, and I notice in Europe they're getting rid of Wi-Fi in schools. That's the first thing I'd do. Schools are precious places. That's our future, and I just hate the fact that a lot of these schools are just radiation traps. Wi-Fi and laptops everywhere, and it's making kids sick. Like the little paper I just did about ADHD and kids. You're not going to teach kids anything if they're jumping around, can't concentrate. So I don't know. I'm just hoping that some people get wise and do the sensible things. Stuff like prevention.
Have you heard of Agenda 21 by any chance?
Just in passing.
So, any remaining thoughts to our listenership?
I tell you, if they read my book, it'll answer a lot more questions than I've been able to cover in an hour. And I'm accessible. They can email me or call me, and contact information's in the book.
And can we get your website out? Go ahead and give them your website, please.
I gave it initially, but it's www.sammilham, SAMMILHAM.com.
Okay, well, listen, thank you so much for taking this interview, and it's going to be very insightful to the listeners out there that really, like me, were absolutely clueless about this technology and, more importantly, smart meters.
Well, smart meters are just the tip of an iceberg. I think they're bad, but there's lots of other bad stuff out there we got to duck, and like the deck phones, the compact fluorescent lights, whatever. You have them read my book. It's cheap. And pass it on to your friends, and especially if you have young kids, try to protect them from this stuff. Because one of my friends just did a study showing that if women are exposed during pregnancy to these fields, the kids get asthma. Asthma is epidemic in kids now, and it's probably a lot of it due to EMF exposure when they're in utero, and that's certainly when they get the leukemia that I discovered years ago. So, okay, nice talking to you, and it's been my pleasure.
Thank you so much, Doctor, and hopefully we'll have you back in the future.
Okay, well, take care.
Take care, sir.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, we hope you enjoyed the Frequency of Genius program, and it was quite amazing amount of information to digest and take in. We want to thank Dr. Milham for amazing insight from a scientist and a doctor who really has been questioning what has been going on with the smart meters, the dirty electricities, the cell phones, and so forth. So please visit his website today. And if you're on the website, we've linked up his book and his website. And thank you again for tuning in to the Frequency of Genius program, provided by OmniGreenLife.com.